Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic, host of Bachelor Nation News. The Bachelor finale was Monday night, but those past contestants that are sort of dealing with the edit they received and the fallout from their seasons still have to live with regret, bitterness, and things like that. And Gabi from Zach's season is no different. She shared how she's triggered by this current season, seeing Daisy's breakup and how it all went down. If you want more content in the entertainment news world, join me on Bachelor Rush Hour. The hit podcast will have more content over there. So, one of the questions we ask ourselves is, what do we want to do with our lives? How can we be the best version of ourselves? And it can be very tough coming from the show when you don't always get maybe the outcome you thought you would, and then you get to watch other people have a more champion moment. That being Daisy. Now, Daisy decided she knew she was getting dumped and she walked herself out. It was more obvious for Daisy that she was getting dumped than it was for Gabi that she was getting dumped by Zach. In Gabi's circumstance, Zach had his happy ending with Katie, but then also disclosed that he had sex in the fantasy suite. It was a whole thing, and Gabi got the short end of the stick because on one end, she wanted to be the supportive friend to Katie, but on the other, she got really blindsided there. Well, Gabi posted to her Instagram having PTSD, which I don't doubt. I don't doubt she has post-traumatic stress disorder from this experience. She said, quick pause, don't settle, ladies. So I guess that means she ended up getting a nice Hermes purse or something. And again, it looks like Gabi's got a boyfriend now we're happy for. It doesn't negate the feelings she has about how the show did her dirty. Someone asked her, is it difficult to watch and relive those memories? She said, it's so crazy, but I still haven't watched the final episode from Zach's season, my live portion. I honestly can't put into words the emotions I felt. Angry, embarrassed, scared, sad, the list goes on. I haven't brought myself to a place where I can watch it. Maybe someday when I'm alone and I feel like crying, but until then it lives in the archives of my parents' DVR. My recommendation is when the time is right, watch it and feel all of those emotions. Write Zach a letter. You don't have to send it to him. It would have been nice if they had some girls in the audience from my season to be there for Katie and me. Someone said, why aren't you in the live audience? She said, I'm wondering the same thing. A case for the FBI, feeling unlovable. And then the wet hair, bikini, self-doubt interviews are really triggering me. Been there, done that. And then she says on the plus side, at least the flight home won't take 24 hours for whoever he doesn't choose. Oh, that's got to be brutal. And again, they put her in economy. They're not flying her first class. And in this moment, Daisy realizes she's not the one. And Gabi knows how dumb it must feel to just get dumped that way. Still not over your finale dress. She said, I absolutely loved this dress, but she's ruined. I think I need to burn this dress in a fire pit with sage. It has bad juju now. Very unfortunate. Haven't even had it cleaned since Thailand. It probably has my tears on it. From firm believer, if I have a bad night in an outfit, I can never wear the article of clothing again. I feel the same way, Gabi. Absolutely. That bad energy lives in that cloth. The mats outside of the car are a nice touch. I feel I have made a difference now. That being, she got her heel stuck. Right before she was getting dumped, she kind of had her own little fit where she was like, oh, damn, she made her outfit all nice, and then all of a sudden she's stuck in the mud. I also feel I may be entitled to compensation for this one. Absolutely, why not? Get some compensation. So every season, we get this question of like, what's so-and-so going to do next now that the show's over? What are you going to do with your life? It's kind of like we've all got our own hero's journey. And because of this, whether you're coming off of the show or just feel rudderless and drifting into the midnight sea or whatever the case may be, we always talk about and like to talk about and have the conversation about finding, the best version of yourself and living an authentic life. Well, I thought we would have on a friend of mine, Susan Rich. She's kind of like one of the moms of the channel. That's a compliment, Susan. And she's got a seminar this weekend she's going to be giving for free, helping people out. She's writing a book called Life Story Hero, and you can go to lifestoryhero.com if you want to join that seminar. Maybe you want to, find out what your true passion is, and maybe this brainstorming session could help. Well, enjoy my chat with Susan. We are so excited today to talk to one of our, fans, friends, colleagues, peers. It's Susan Rich from the Pacific Northwest here. How are you?
Hi, Dave. Nice to see you.
So we met first last year, but you've been a member of our community for probably 3 or 4 years now. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I think that's about right. Yep. It's been a while, before you did any live streams.
I know, from the early days in the old studio, those
And for the small audience that remembers those times, we're glad to have moved into a bigger room because that was very taxing. But you got to start somewhere, right? That's kind of the whole point of this conversation today. We're gonna have you've got a book coming out called Life Story Hero, and I love those words. What do they mean to you when you talk about trying to find your identity in this world we live in?
Yeah, well, what it means to me is like I've always had this mantra, and you've even mentioned it. It's a pretty common concept, but this personal mantra, you have to be the hero of your own life story. And for me, what that means is um, having a sense of who you really are. So, what are you meant to be? Who are you really meant to be? What is your personal quest? And basically what it takes to get there, because we all know our journeys are not easy, and when we have our own personal quest, it makes those hard times, those obstacles, much easier to get through because we have a sense of something that really matters to us. And it can happen to us any time. We're always having to reinvent ourselves because life gets in the way. So
Yeah,
sometimes,
when
yeah.
you say life gets in the way, that seems to be one of the bigger limiting factors people have when it comes to pursuing their dreams. It's almost as if you don't have enough money to start when you're young, people think that you just kick the can down the road and then you just can't, you can never be who you wanted to be, and you settle for a lower quality version of yourself. And the reason we're talking today is because it's a few days after the Bachelor season ended, and every time the season ends, you've got a new batch of alumni that are mainly rudderless. Most of them are unemployed, like most folks in their 20s are trying to figure out what's the bigger meaning in life, and that's a tough question to answer.
And it, it can happen to us at all stages of our lives. It could be when we first start out. Where do I begin? It could be we're in the middle of things. We think we're, swimming upstream, and all of a sudden we get laid off, or we go through a divorce, or we have this epiphany, like, what am I doing here? This is not what I want to do. Or, we get treated badly. It's just sort of, we can have to an awareness. It could also be after, I don't know, your children move out, you retire. It's like, what do I do now? Life doesn't start. And, we can have quests that we put on hold, but we should never let them go. And one of the things that I like to do, or I hope to do, is help people find out who they really are, what they really want, and then how to make that happen. So something I'm really excited about, and I've loved working with people so far on this with
Yeah,
this.
it's one of those things. It's almost easier to see what lights somebody else up versus, because so many times people will say, "Well, I'd love to be a poet, but I got to. This is ridiculous. Why would I ever get into that?" And they start speaking these beliefs that are so harmful and negative to themselves. When we do live in a world where you could be a poet, you could be a mom who's also writing poetry. Like there's never a shortage for at least the like this step in that right direction. So what do you look for when you're trying to assess what someone's dreams might be? Because I don't think a lot of people have it clear, like cut out.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a good point, because the foundation is having the mindset, what I call the mindset of a hero. So, because if you don't believe that you deserve to have a purpose, if you feel like you have no control over what happens to you, it's you're going to have a really hard time. So we start with having the mindset of a hero. What does it take? It's ownership, self responsibility. I mean, that whole pull yourself up with the bootstraps is, but it's more like nobody's going to do the work for you. Nobody's going to give it to you. It's a journey for a reason, and things that matter take work. So that's the start. And then the second, so the next piece is, who are you? What makes you who you are? And I help people figure that out. I facilitate that with them, because sometimes it takes an outsider to help guide you with somebody who does not have his or her own agenda, right?
Right.
Because the answer is within you, but sometimes we don't always see it. And what I like to do is help people discover that within themselves. And once they get a sense of that, it's like, what are their values? What do they hate? What do they love? It's sort of a discovery journey. And then from there, there's the what do you want to do next? Like I said, it's a lot of that is based on the discovery of who you are. And we often are so told who we are by other people and our events that it can get be really easy to get lost.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of projecting that happens from parents and guidance counselors. And when I was in school, you like when I was in school for business, you wanted to find a good business job. It was never like which company's corporate culture do I want to be a part of? What companies do I believe in? And I really think you need to lead first, even if you stay in the corporate world or go out on your own, regardless of who you're working with or what company you're starting. It's like, what makes you want to get up out of bed every day? And not at,
Right.
like you said, most people don't know the answer to that. But when you know what you're looking for, when it finds you, you go, oh, this is great. This is it. I love this thing that's coming into my life. And then you can start plowing your way into that direction.
Oh yeah, and and again, it's like we, the Bachelor world. It's a journey for all of us. It's a journey, and so I actually use the concept of the hero's journey to help people get the tools to to accomplish their goals or discover their quests, and that includes things like who are your mentors, who are your allies. We don't need to go through these things alone. I mean, for example, you found an ally in Reality Steve, and what a difference that has made for you. We don't have to, we don't have to close off, and we can get help from other people. We can, people who've been there, people who can help us. So there are a lot of tools that we have, and that's again, if we see ourselves as a hero and we use the model of what heroes do and how they accomplish incredible feats through obstacles. Anyway, that's the model I use and help people understand that. And there's we work through that and what I call missions. We have missions with obstacles and we have risks and how you're going to mitigate those risks. So it's about taking the power. Just like the heroes, the Marvel heroes, do they sit around and wait for somebody to tell them what to do? You know, they take things on with whatever powers they have.
Yeah, and it's I love the idea of the hero. You know what's interesting with The Bachelor is we're so conditioned as an audience. There's so much negativity around the contestants. So there's this conditioning that's like, oh, so and so's here for the wrong reasons, as if it's a bad thing if Daisy's book gets more sales after going on the show. So I see someone like Daisy, who people have gone, oh, she just wants to be an influencer or this or that, and I think, well, I think you can be strategic and know that there is an audience that might connect with the content you've got, but then you also might find love. Like it doesn't have to be one versus the other when you see these influencers, but we've
Right,
got
right.
such a shame attached to the idea of influencers and I think content creators in general because and I'll get this where people go get a real job and this and that and you go and I don't even need to respond to that because I feel so happy and fulfilled working twice as many hours because it's
Right.
my thing that I want to do. So it's almost like finding a way to gain control over what might be next for you is a real important thing for people.
Yeah, Joe, and with that, it's like it's who you are. But only you can know, and your journey is your journey. I mean, we're gonna make mistakes. That's the whole idea. Otherwise, it would just be a destination, which, like the old saying, is like whether it's Daisy or you know Joey or whoever. They're in the process of finding their own journey, and it's not for us to know or worry about what somebody else's journey is. And one of the things that I think is really important is that concept of what you can control and what you can't control. You can control what you think and do and say, and that's what you own. But you don't own what other people think and do and say. I think it's disrespectful to ever even try to tell other people who they should be or what they should be, because that's their job, that's their journey, and you need to take take that energy and focus on finding your journey and what your obstacles are. And as Daisy moves forward, whether she wants to be an influencer and she tries that, because our journeys are about experimenting. There's this concept called stumble forward. Just jump in and try it. You're not going to really discover who you are, who you're meant to be, until you try things. And I've come up with this concept of the hero's journey. This beginning part is what I call the incubation stage. That's when you get out there and you experiment and you explore. You build those relationships. You find those mentors. You create those allies, and have fun with it. And then you will have your aha, this is it.
Yeah,
So I'm excited for them all to start that incubation.
yeah, and obviously we use Bachelor as sort of a common denominator to talk about, but not everybody starts with 1 million followers and becomes a DJ like Blake, or can have a chart topping podcast like Jason Tartick. So we know all that, but I'm an example, and a lot of like Reality Steve examples of being like, well, no one gifted us an audience. And
Right.
You could argue that in the long-term business of what you want to do with your life, you're almost better off not having this preordained audience to speak to, because you can build something like directly in the path you want. So that's why I think it's interesting, when I share my journey, is that it doesn't always look like exactly what you wanted it to be, but you have to follow, like you said, stumble forward in those directions, because every opportunity I've wanted has been opened up to me through a path I didn't know was going to exist. And that wouldn't have
Right.
happened in any way if I had my blinders on and was like, no, I'm only doing this. And I said, you know what? That path looks okay. And I think, like you said, it can take a little while, but what's the alternative? Spending your life regretting? So for people, whether you're straight out of college or divorced, or whatever your scenario is, choose excitement. Choose like what you because if you can't be the best version of yourself, you're sure as hell not going to be good for anybody else.
Because the bottom line is, what everyone is looking for is a life of meaning and purpose, right? And so when things come easily, that doesn't come with meaning and purpose. You have to really figure out who you really are, what do you really want, and that's got to be tested. Because if we were born with a piece of paper that said, this is what you're going to do and this is the path you're going to take, life would certainly be boring, wouldn't it?
I think of people with trust funds, and I know, so a lot of people disagree with me on this one. I don't think that money or the lottery, I don't think that satiates for a lot of people. Like, sure, stability, we all want some stability, but once you get past that certain like level of stability, that money means nothing in your bank account if it doesn't come with a story that you're able to tell. Now, what I love about our audience is that we've got authors and screenwrites and actors, and we have architects and designers and nurses. We have all these people that have a really strong community. And I wanted them to hear your message, because you've got a free sort of brainstorming seminar this Saturday. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so because I'm writing the book, but I'm also offering coaching. I will be building small group coaching, but I'm right now offering one-on-one coaching, and that is helping people figure out who they are, what they want, and how to make it happen. So it's a 1 hour seminar just to let you know what I'm doing, what it's all about, see if it's something that interests you. If you're in a place where you're thinking, what do I do now? Or I feel restless, or I feel stuck. And, sometimes people feel like they've just even lost who they are. They once knew who they are. And again, life happens and they've lost who they are. And often that's women in general. But it's a seminar to say, let's talk about this. Let me tell you about what it's about. If it's something that is interests you, then I would ask you to, go on my website and fill out a contact form, and we can have a conversation, see if there's some way I can help you.
How exciting. Well, I'm sure this message will be received by some people that are very thirsty for some of this info. So they can go to lifestoryhero.com, and
That's
the
right.
seminar is going to be 10 a.m. Pacific time, Saturday, March 30th.
That's
And
right,
again,
next time.
completely free. And that
Yes.
could be a good start of maybe taking the right steps into a new direction.
Yeah. And there's one more thing I'm kicking off a podcast called Raising Heroes. And it has to do with the mindset, the hero mindset that I mentioned. It's like, how can parents help their kids grow into that hero mindset so that they are armed and ready to grow into that sense of like, okay, I'm I have self-worth and I matter and there's a purpose for me. And I besides having been a teacher, I did study human development at Virginia Tech, and I actually took the early childhood development courses seriously. And as a parent, and which later was what military parent, and then a single parent, I implemented those ideas. And my adult son is joining me on the podcast to sort of we were going to throw out some of those ideas of what I learned through that training and what we tried out as an experiment. And he is a graduate of Second City, so he's going to have some. Uh, how do I say this? Anyway, he will contribute in unexpected ways. It's a conversation. I never know what he's going to say.
Yeah,
So
nice mother-son podcast. That sounds very endearing. I have to say, it's interesting, kid on the way, thinking about how you can instill the qualities of hard work and things like that with your. And I don't have any solutions. Obviously, I'm not battle tested, but I think what I'm going to try is just to at least be. And I know I do this for my brothers. At least be an example. So when I talk the talk, I can walk the walk, and I can tell them, I took a hard left turn and did something I wanted to do. You can too. And then you can just give people that free will to decide if they want that, if they're ready for that or not. And anyone who's still listening, it sounds like they're ready. So to speak to an audience, why are you waiting? Lifestoryhero.com. Susan, thanks for joining me today and give me an update on how it goes.
I will. Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate it. You've been
All
a
right.
great example of a life story here. I can tell you that.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm trying. We're not there. We're not a finished product, but have a good one and we'll talk to you soon.